Welcome back to the Soundation. And why pay for mixing and mastering classes when you can just learn here? Let's listen to what we got. And you might hear some crackling. My CPU does not like this. It's not much. One thing that I'm certain of 100%, alright, is that when it comes to making music, the melodies do not matter. Like, it does have to be melodic. But we are entering a stage in music and humans like interacting and integrating with music to where we have ADHD. The beat can have ADHD at this point. It's all about having this flow and just making noise over the beat. So just understand, all right, that like even though this is just a guitar and a solo, music is becoming a whole bunch of noise, and not a bad way. Just know that like our mindset is evolving, so we're able to understand just a whole lot of other things. And in my opinion, this is going to just be a very small fraction in terms of what music is. But a perfect analogy is what mumble rapping was. All right, is because that took this. It was like an evolution in flow, if you ask me. It required people to kind of have a flow, but they didn't have the words to like go over that flow until they actually had the words to go over that in that flow. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that's my opinion. Um, so when it comes to like mixing, it's just sound, right? Obviously, and the way we should visualize it is like a wall. Is like, let's say you're just standing and like just a wall of sound. You ever watch that show like a hole in a wall? Yeah, well, there's no hole in this wall. It's a wall of sound that's about to hit you. You're gonna be completely submerged. I feel if we were to even take a look at something like the piano roll, um, it's just like you can imagine this being one like whole wall, and every single note is filled. Right, there's not one single like empty space, and that's when like mixing is required, and that's what I think like we have to like really like learn here. Maybe that's why you actually want to be able to mix. I apologize if I'm talking for like too much, but at the same time, the sound design is also like important. Okay, uh, I think people need to upgrade from just making beats. Like when I literally first started making beats and realized, oh, a melody's not that difficult, right? It does require some creativity. Then it's just like, well, then what actually is like the good sauce? And it is like even making your own sounds. It is because just when you actually learn how to make the sounds from scratch, all right, like patch all the cables together, like with like a modulator or something like that. Um, I believe that you're gonna have a better understanding of like how to just mix, I suppose, and that might not be like it's not exactly the same, but you're gonna have to understand that things go in an order. And if I'm not mistaken, those things would be considered like some sort of chain when it comes to people like wanting like a like mastering vocal. They have to create like a vocal chain, like a guitar chain, like a drum chain. All right, and I realized that similarity is because you have to understand that the sound goes like through the cable. Even though we're working on a digital audio workspace, there's like an order that it has to go through. And it was like the same thing when actually trying to like sound design. Like you have to have an oscillator to make the sound, and it has to be carried out this, that, and the third. So just like a simple thing is just to understand like how do you want your sound to end up sounding, and then you have to know like what do you have to do to get there, right? And that's what they don't kind of teach you, I believe, like just on like the YouTube videos. They'll say, hey, use a compressor because like compressor like does this, right? And they'll even say, ah, do you hear how the attack changes this? You didn't hear how the attack changed it. You didn't hear how the release of the compressor changed it. Let's be honest. Then you have to start fiddling with how a compressor works. But like, and there was this one beat that I was working on in a different like project. I think I had multiple drums, and this is like important. Like, here's a tip, I guess, because this was like a very cool thing. I had multiple drums, all linked together into like one instrument track. Meaning, like this was like a snare, a hi hat. This was like the kick. This was like maybe the 808, and then they were all linked into like just one thing, routed into like one thing. And there was a compressor there. It actually changed the dynamics of like the whole drum, like all the drums at once, right? So I feel like a lot of people when they make beats and like want to produce, which is totally fine. It's just, oh, I'm just gonna add a compressor on this, and then I'm gonna add an EQ on that, this, that, and the third. But I think that when we hear people say, "Oh, let's glue these sounds together," well, I guess that's how they glue them together. But to even go even further, it is like when you're creating sounds from sound design, it's like, well, hey, you have a sine wave, you could say, then you have like a saw wave, and you can put those together. So it's like, let's say you're done actually, mixing one block, and then like for like strings, and then you're done mixing another block for vocals, and then another block for percussions, right? Well, then how does all that mix together? And that's like, I don't know if that's like possible. That's what mixing is, but at the same time, it's all just cabling. The way that I'm envisioning this, I'm envisioning like even more compartmentalized boxes, so to speak. More so how like, I'm envisioning like a Rubik's cube. Like there's even more tinier mixes happening that can glue everything back into a larger scale. But maybe that is possible. I just don't know how to do it. But when it comes to the melody that I played here, there was, and this is important when it comes to sound. Why I brought up sound design in the first place is because with a sound, you can just you will accidentally stumble upon melody. All right, like I said, we're going into a stage where people have like ADHD when it comes to like melodies and music. Like we can just do anything over it. It's I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say, and that's, I probably shouldn't have said the ADHD part because now I forgot what I was gonna say. But that's right. I accidentally, it's whatever. Like a sound really dictates the whole song, and it is what it is. So I was like playing with, and it completely crashed. So as I was saying before, FL Studio crashed, and if you ever find yourself with your DAW crashing, at least FL Studios go to file and then revert to last backup. I don't know how often or frequently, which is the same thing, you have your DAW to save or back up your music, but it should go to the last saved thing, which I think is like very useful. But I was gonna get into like when you find a sound, it will dictate the melody or how the whole song will sound. And I guess I'll play this melody again. I probably would not have found that melody if it wasn't me hearing the guitar. All right. And it was a guitar. Hopefully, it doesn't crash this time. It's going to crash again. All right, it didn't. Listen, I made a video of how to get your free complete control like libraries or whatever, contact libraries, if they're free for the free player to work. For this works, all right, but for some reason it does this after like X amount of time. I think it's because I have the demo version, but that's fine. To work around that, if you are a fast worker, what you can do is render your audio clip or render the melody, which I did right there. This is the melody I placed down with that guitar. I rendered it as an audio clip, okay? And then I placed the audio clip here, so it kind of just, it doesn't actually like, cut off any longer, because when that happens, you don't hear the sound any longer. And I have a video up on how to actually make it so you can hear your samples play. So go check that out. But if it wasn't me actually getting that guitar, I would have not been able to like hear that melody off of that sound. That's the best part about it. And also, this is important, is that like, and this is important to me in my production, is the fact that like I was in like the choir, like in like high school and stuff like that. So I think something that I'm gonna start doing is just like incorporating like just it, so to speak. And I know a lot of people do that, but another thing that I think that's cool is I mean, I used to play like piano and violin when I was younger. A lot of people used to play instruments, but when you start kind of seeing how this stuff is all supposed to mix together, like there's no difference from Renaissance instruments to like this new age synth that's gonna come about. I don't think Renaissance instruments the correct, if that's like really an adjective right there, but you know what I'm saying? If you, we're just entering a new stage in like sound, I believe, and or it's time to like find the next thing. I really believe that. But anyway, I wanted to talk about what the guitar is going through and what the vocal is going through. It's not a vocal, it's a sample, but it's like the you know what I mean. The guitar, I wanted it to make it close up, or at least with some reverb. I wanted the vocal to sound far away. I think the best way to get that picture that you're imagining is to use a stereo imager. All right, so at least the solo vocals, cause Claire solos also on the complete control thing. You can just download it. The last thing it runs through is the ozone imager. So understand that, like in the last video before my video crashed, maybe I'm gonna glue these videos together, maybe not. That I said that the cabling is very important. The sound has to actually be directed towards a certain like way. All right. So it's just like the last thing that you're hearing is how I want it to like be pictured. You understand? That's like my logic behind it. But there's that before it goes into the imager, right? And that's adds like the width to it. This is what the imager looks like. All right, that's what it looks like. This is how it looks when you play. There's more. This is just like a free imager. I kind of see if I were to change it into like get it out of stereo and then decrease the width, it changes into that line. All right, so I think there's a difference overall, which I think is very cool, especially when you're fully immersed in the music, when your senses are on a whole nother level. But that's a different talk. But I also applied some reverb, okay? And so I had this plugin called Rev Intensity. Listen, this is cracked. I'm not gonna lie. I cracked it. Like, it doesn't matter, right? People pay for plugins. I probably could have just added Fruity Reverb. I could have just got a free plugin, but it doesn't matter, all right? And one thing that I've noticed about these cracked plugins, at least this, is that this drop down arrow. Look at that, so cool. There's LFO with this reverb. That's pretty awesome. And it's just like seeing this right here, you could just make your own reverb plugin with LFO. I'm not gonna lie. And you could probably just sell it to people for cheaper than what this is. We have like just filters for the reverb. They have that for like 3D reverb. It doesn't look as cool. Envelope too. Come on now. And you actually have like distance, the size, the width. All right. And this is supposed to be at least wide sound for the vocals. But at the same time, what I thought was really cool is that without that part there, without the reverb, it should sound close up, is because the built-in reverb in the plugin, it was set to room. So like if there's hall, which makes it sound like you're in a big old space, but room makes it sound like you're in a, let's hear it. All right, now that was without the reverb. Now it's been so, and this is with the reverb. It might have been hard to hear. I completely understand. One thing that I've learned to look at is if it's actually working. I look at this little wave monitor right here, and then I know if there's still resonance. But trust me, it's working. And there you go. That's just the solo right there. Okay, that's how I mix that solo. There's nothing crazy. You can just get a reverb plugin. You can just download this. But the guitar, now this one I went through like a preamp. Do I know when to always apply preamp? No. But if you look online, okay, and you just like read what it's supposed to do, it's like it's supposed to boost low frequencies and make them louder. All right, before it goes into the main mix. Usually it's for like a microphone, because microphones are not as loud as everything else. Makes sense, okay? But I just wanted to add this preamp to it, and the cool thing about this preamp for this guitar is that it has like equalizers in it. All right, and not only that, there's stereo mode and mono, but you can equalize the left side and the right side. So I think that's very cool in terms of like, I might be using this just because for the equalization setting, but also at the same time, they're pretty equal on both sides. So it's just, do I know what it's gonna sound like without it overall on like crazy speakers, or not really, right? I do know what happens if I were to change these settings. It does sound different, and that's how I think that you guys should learn how to mix. You have to hear the most extreme stuff and then back it off a little bit. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? Like play with this knob, like turn it all, well, not the gain, because then you'll blow out as like an eardrum. Like turn the knob up all the way up, and you're like, this is what that does for the specific thing, this, that, and the third, and through trial and error, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, you're gonna learn by ear, and it's just like that's technically what I said. But if you know what the plugin does, then it's just like, yeah, I'm just saying. Make sure I'm gonna make sure if I'm still recording. All right, I am. I'm not gonna be one of those people just talking to myself. Okay. Now, after the preamp, I then put it through a delay. All right. I just wanted to add like a little bit of just something. Okay. It did add something. It was slight, but it's there. Okay. I mean, if I were to play it to you, you're not gonna hear the difference. I promise. I can. You're not gonna hear the difference, right? But there's a difference. But the thing about it is this. Okay, I have a guitar and I have a solo, and they're going into the mix. But I'm trying to see, and I might be able to just figure it out here. The solo's also going into the reverb, so the guitar's also being reverberated, and then it's also being put into the mix. One thing that is bugging me, and this is where I think there might be something out there, is just where it's at, right? Maybe I want the guitar like far back in the corner, I want the solo close up, but maybe at the same time sounding distant. I might want a violin in the rafters or something like that. I want it above me, you know what I'm saying? And like that's what I'm thinking, like an imager would be good for, but I think it's just imaging, it's allowing you to see where the sound is somewhat. I know there's panning is a thing, okay, but it's just, I don't think these panning tools are enough. Maybe I'm just doing something wrong in terms of mixing. At the same time, I wanted to make it sound like you don't even have like headphones on too, you know what I mean? So it's just like, there's a lot of things to work on, but this is what it sounds like without the preamp. The guitar just sounds louder. So I pretty much turned it down with the preamp. It might be subtle. The delay adds some sort of reverb. It's there. I kind of felt that the track lost some fullness. The reverb is what really adds that angelicness, I believe. But yeah, just wanted to upload this. There's more things to like put in this song, but we're gonna see how it all mixes together.